Dungeness snow crabs or whatever he was talking about.
Yeah, the new Sagai ones are good. Did you ever watch the movie Jack Frost with
No.
Michael Keaton?
No.
Where the dad dies and turns into a snowman?
That sounds terrifying. It's like a thriller?
No, it's a kid's movie.
That sounds like a thriller. Oh yeah, that's terrifying. Look at those eyebrows. Put it up. Really put it up here. It's terrifying.
I think the nose is creepy. It looks like a little tree stump.
You're telling me that's not a horror film?
It's not. He's the world's coolest dad, and he's gonna prove it.
That's even scarier. Holy crap! Look at this one. When he's like morphing?
That's what he does. Actually, I think what happens is the dad, he gets into a car accident, and then he comes back as Jack Frost.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the Wicked Post Show, the host show with your most show. This is try number 7. I am Mo, and this is Joe, and we are here to talk everything not science. That's right, Johanna is sick of science.
I am done.
She is now denying all science. She became a flat earther in the last half an hour.
Oh gosh,
she is
don't put that label on me.
Yeah.
I did actually, science was I don't think I was the worst at science in school, but it was my least favorite subject. I was the worst at math.
I'm pretty good at science. I took biology twice, so.
Oh, so you're like double smart in biology? Yeah, I just hated the labs. I think we talked about this already. I opted out of all the dissections, and that's how much I dislike science.
We know you don't like science because last week you thought an owl pellet was an animal.
I didn't think it was an animal.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was poop.
No, at one point you said, "Is that an animal?" I'm pretty sure.
Okay, well,
run back the tape.
Know. We'll never know.
We might dissect the owl pellets and like.
What?
You never did this? Willie did it.
Is that an animal?
Like a poop from an owl.
Oh, we will never know.
Some of us will know, though. Some of us do know.
Okay, so now we should get to the real stuff. We need to talk about Levi.
Oh, yeah. He's been a real issue lately.
Yeah, we've really got to get to the bottom of it. What did you think?
Wait, hold on. Before we dive into this, I had someone this week ask me,
oh no,
do you and Levi have beef? Which I love. And to answer the question, yes.
Always. That's it's like part of your job description to have beef with Levi.
Yeah, it's like accountability, sort of.
Mm-hmm. In a weird way.
Yeah. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the sermon, and we didn't want to talk about the science of it. We wanted to talk about the other stuff,
stuff, yeah. What stuck out? What did you think?
He read from Romans 2, and somewhere in the middle there. And one thing that he was talking about was this idea that I think is kind of interesting, the idea that even those who don't have a relationship with God still have God's law written upon their hearts. Like, we have this intrinsic idea of what is good and what is bad, and we tend to follow those things even without the influence of God. Yeah. And where does that come from? If that's been sort of a thing, I think you can trace that back to Cain and Abel maybe, or even further back to Adam. But like where does that influence of bad and good come from? Like, where does that karma come from if not from an external source, a creator that directs us?
I think about that a lot in relation, to people who don't believe in God but do have a really strong, what people would call like a moral compass. And I think, to me, I think it's a really logical argument for why God exists. Because I'm like, there are certain things in the world that we all, regardless of our political beliefs, our religious beliefs, whatever, would be like, that's bad. Like child abuse. Everybody can be like, that's not good, and
I'm saying it's very, very bad, but I'm saying there's been some weird stuff lately in the news, if you're a news follower.
Yeah, I guess there's always like
outliers,
anomalies, but the general public.
But those prove the rule, because then everyone's like, whoa, no.
Yeah, they're like, we can all be, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really interesting, and it makes me think back over just in biblical times and through stories that we read about in the Bible. Specifically, I was reading the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And how Nebuchadnezzar in that story very obviously stated, like, wow, your God is like incredible. Like, he realized that that's the reason that they were saved, but he still didn't believe. And if you read back a little bit before that in Daniel, you see that there were multiple other interactions that he had with Daniel that also brought him to the same conclusion. Yet he could recognize like, oh, that was like big G God, but like still didn't believe it. And I just think that that's so incredibly interesting that you can have such like miraculous experiences and still not believe.
Yeah. I think we all probably, if we think about it, we know someone, if you're lucky enough at least, where you're like, this person exudes the love of God. Like they are a follower of Christ and they don't even know it.
Yes.
Like you are look more like Christ than some people I see on Sunday morning, and yet you don't acknowledge the name of Christ. I think that's such an interesting thing. Like I don't want to call anyone out, but I think of people that are really close in my life who are like, you have a servant's heart. You have the heart that is so counterintuitive to modern culture that you're like, you have the heart of Christ in you and you don't see it yet.
Yeah. Well, and it's just really interesting because then it makes you think like, do those people still get used to forward the gospel to somebody else, you know, with maybe without even realizing it, and them having their own faith, which I think just shows us the power of God. Like he can do whatever he wants and he can use whoever he wants in whatever way he wants.
Yeah. And I actually, this affords a whole nother conversation, but I actually lost a relationship over this once. I was dating a girl and we had this conversation about if someone is truly good in their character and in the way that they carry themselves, do they still, if they don't have a relationship with God, do they still get afforded a place in heaven? And I had to take the stance of that if you're not, you know, if you're committing acts of good out of the name of God, is it an act of good or is it an act of self-aggrandization? Like where does the motivation for that come from?
Yeah.
If not for God, I don't know. It's such a touchy topic. You want to be able to be like, good is good, but if it's not good in the name of God, what is it?
Well, and I think it brings back to the whole conversation of like whether acts is what gets you into heaven or whether it's your salvation, you know, and what you believe on that side of of that.
It's a tricky topic, and you just hope that through time and that continued servanthood that they will learn the source of that they will know that like Romans 2 says, that the law of God is written on their heart. That is the moral compass that is leading them in the direction of good. And another thing, you know, speaking on like things that are written in nature or in our hearts, is Levi was talking about the idea that creation, or nature is another compass or something that's pointing a signpost to God. And what do the trees or what does nature, what do the rivers say about the creator, the artist that's behind them? They're the brush strokes, and as you study the brush strokes, you learn about the tools that the creator used and more about the character of the creator. Yeah, I was thinking about this as I was writing a little lesson for the preschoolers of the church, just thinking about what nature tells us and what creation tells us about God. And one of the things that I was talking about is how we all can respond and react so differently to nature. You can see something and think that it's the most beautiful thing ever and it can move you to tears. And I can be like, that's okay. And then vice versa, maybe something else happens and you're like, oh, I really don't think that that's that beautiful, but I think it's amazing. And I think that is just a testament to, one, how God created each of us differently and created us to respond and react and to be moved by things differently. And that should be celebrated as opposed to, I don't know, shamed or misunderstood. Yeah, I relate to this pretty heavily. You know, we were talking beforehand about how different things, react or resonate with us and how they lead us to a place with God. And it made me think instantly about worship and how, each Sunday morning there's this beautiful place of worship that's usually curated by Krista or whoever's on the worship team for us, or whatever church that you go to. And it's this really incredible experience for a lot of people who get to come and lay down in front of the feet of God and just open up their hearts and sing praise. And it's an incredible tool for a lot of people. And for me, I've just never felt connected to it. It's never felt like the ways that I connect to God. And I have those ways for myself. And I've felt sometimes shamed or even if it's self-inflicted shame of just being like, why do I not get to this space? And I've had to get to a space in my own life where I've realized I just am really glad that this space, I keep saying space, but that this moment exists for the people who need it. And that's okay that it's not for me. And I'm really just like impressed by God that he can use so many different things to connect to so many people, so many different people in so many different ways. Like the Bible says, we can be all things to all people. God gets to be that to us, and we get to connect to him in our own unique ways. And that's just another beautiful character of the Father that we get to serve.
Yeah. And I think it's a good reminder to you and to me and to everybody that things like worship and things like praise don't always have to exist in what is the typical Christian space, like singing songs or hymns. You know, there are lots of different ways to worship and give thanks to God that don't include music.
Yeah.
And that is important to remember for ourselves, to put ourselves in new experiences, to try new things, to see if those may be spaces where we experience God, but also to not be judgmental towards people that don't experience that.
Yeah. And as we wrap up here, we always like to share something with you guys to take for the week if we can. You had something good for the folks.
Yeah. I would, going back to talking about King Nebuchadnezzar, I would encourage you all to go back and read through Daniel. It's a pretty short book, and it really reads just like a story. And I was just reminded, thinking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and how incredibly faithful they were. And that's something Levi talked about last week, about God being moved by our faith, and how I can see so clearly in that moment how God would have been so moved by them saying, you know, even if God doesn't do this, like, we're not bowing down. And I just think that's a really great reminder for all of us as we are challenged to compromise in our daily lives and to just be encouraged by that. So go check out Daniel.
As beautiful as a wrap up as that would be, I want to shoehorn in a bonus one here, which is I've been listening to a podcast lately called The Wild. I believe the narrator's name is Chris Morgan. I could be wrong on that, but he does these really incredible nature documentaries that are all audible, cool. And it's on the podcast app. You can just listen in, and I've honestly felt close to God through those podcasts and just learning about these moments of creation that I haven't got to experience. And that's been really great for me. He also has a very soothing voice, so if you need something to fall asleep to, these are often great.
Yeah.
And with that, we will see you guys when we see you. Love you.
Love you.